Hi, I'm Kathy Johnson, and welcome to Town Talk. I have two guests with me today, Michael Maynard and Father Russ Carmichael. I'm very pleased to have Michael on the show, and I'm very pleased to have Father Russ. Many of you have probably already seen Father Russ, but I'm going to turn to Michael Maynard, and I'm going to ask him to introduce himself.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Well, I'm here because of my relationship with Russ. He and I have known each other for a couple of years. I've done his show previously, so people may have seen me and asking, who is this guy and why is he here? I live in Stowe, Massachusetts. I work now as a writer and a journalist, and write predominantly about political and current events. Previously, I worked as a management consultant. Ran my own consulting firm for about 30 years, and worked extensively in the high-tech industry, being in the second generation of the computer industry. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of bounced around a little bit, and I could always write. And now I find through the advances of the internet and what you can do with it, found kind of my own little niche as a writer. So it's interesting.
Well, Michael, I first think I met you on Facebook, reading some of your commentary, and I've heard Father Russ talk about you. And I'm going to move over to Father Russ. I think some of our listeners have seen you before and know you, but just introduce yourself too, Father.
Well, I'm Father Russ Carmichael. I'm a non-denominational priest. I run a home care center. Also the founder of the homeless shelter and food program in New London. Extensive years in the justice program. I'm an advocate. I've done a lot of things. Most of your audience, I'm sure, have know who I am, and my relationship with Michael started as yours over the internet, Facebook, between politically talking about things, and we have another individuals. We're always on there discussing politics and
right.
Arguing with each other.
Well, and I want to add, before we go on, that these two gentlemen know each other, and they know each other well. As a matter of fact, Michael, I think you're out here visiting Russ and Father Russ, and you're here. You were so gracious to say you would be on my show, and I'm so honored with this. But how do you two know each other?
Well, originally, one of the joys of the internet, and particularly Facebook, is you get involved in discussions, and you never know who's going to join the discussion. So I think there was a discussion about religion, and we are both former Catholics, so there was probably a discussion about the Catholic Church. And we are on similar sides of some of the issues around the Catholic Church and the problems and what it's going through. So we were discussing it, and then part of Facebook is that you can go into private chat and
right.
have two-way individual discussion. And so we started to do that and found that we had a lot of similar interests. And said, well, it would kind of be nice to meet. And Russ invited me down to New London to do a show last year, and friendship was formed. In fact, he just came to Boston a couple weeks ago to go to a seminar by the Southern Poverty Law Center, which he asked me to go. So there's he's a good man. It's an interesting relationship.
Well, it is. I have two. This is an easy show for me because I have two very interesting people on, a writer and a journalist, which I find is extremely interesting. And when I started to converse with you on Facebook, I kept thinking to myself, oh, my writing is so poor. My writing is so poor. And I'm one of those lazy writers on Facebook. I just hit the buttons and whatever comes up, it happens that way.
Well, I do that too. And it's a wonderful medium, but it works in unexpected ways. And I just had an incident this past week that shows it.
Yes.
Now, part of the beauty of Facebook is that you develop relationships with people, most of whom you're never going to meet. But you get to know one another.
Yes.
And with me, other than being serious talking about topical issues, I do a lot of teasing back and forth.
I like that.
So I have a friend, Michelle Brooks, who lives in the South, and I saw a picture. Michelle's rather earthy in her language, including online. So she uses certain words frequently to do as adjectives. So I saw this picture of a young girl that kind of looked like Michelle when she was younger, giving the middle finger and saying a certain word. So I sent it to Michelle, but rather than sending it privately, I sent it publicly because I thought because I thought her friends would see it.
Yes.
And we'd all get a good laugh over it.
Right.
Well, it created a firestorm.
Just one word.
Well, the fact that I sent it, and I sent it to her in jest, and the responses that I got back, I'm sitting there credulous, saying, hey folks, this is the internet. It's a meme. There are these things that go on all the time, and a lot of them are a lot worse.
Right.
But it's like, Mike, you're a respected journalist. You should, you're very serious and all the rest of that. How could you do this? And I'm looking, saying, wait a minute, I'm just this guy back in my office in my house typing away and so on. I'm not Nicholas Kristoff or anything like along those lines. I'm just another guy out there. Well, the problem was people objected to the fact that it was a young girl who was giving the finger.
Oh.
And so it's like, well, you were exploiting this young, this kid. And I'm going, exploiting? I didn't take the picture. I'm not the one who created the meme.
You didn't put it online.
I didn't put it online. I just passed it along because I thought it was funny. A firestorm of approximately 3 hours occurred with defenders and opposing parties on it. And I'm in the middle trying to placate both sides. And and to me, it's like, come on, folks, we're adults here.
This is the issue.
Yes, we're adults here. It was a joke, but you never know.
Yeah, you can't tell.
You can't
Now,
tell.
number one, you're not facing an individual. You don't know what they're joking or not, and you can't tell. See, I went on Facebook. I didn't go on for anything serious. I went on Facebook strictly for family, and I forgot how my public life is is pretty well known in certain areas, and before I know it, not only did I have family on there, I had all these other people. I didn't even know how I was getting them on there. And I'm writing, and of course, when I'm writing to my family, I'm seriously dyslexic, so I don't care.
Right.
This is not my job. I'm just writing to people. I'm writing, okay?
Right.
I don't care about misspelling or my dyslexia. That my family knows that. And so I got no editor doing anything, because if I was writing, if I'm writing publicly, I'm going to have an editor and want to put my stuff up. So this is when I started doing that, right? And then I started being corrected. And then I started, because I can be nasty, I say, who are you to correct me? This is a medium for me and my friend. I don't care who you are. I don't even know who you are. What are you doing on my site? I didn't even know how I was getting people on my site. It was so funny.
Just very quickly, I had family members actually say in open, Kathy, we're good at editing, we'll help you. I write on Facebook, and the two biggest hits I got was which way to put the roll of toilet paper on the thing, and what can you think of a dog's name without an A in it? So anyway, so I can relate to what you're talking about.
It's funny.
You just don't know what's going to attract people's attention.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that you get into conversations with people whom you don't know. Well, you know and you don't, and that's part of the issue. Is I've had people tell me things in private about what's going on with them, and it's remarkable. you do develop this bond, you develop this relationship.
Yes.
But part of the issue is it's all text. And text is flat.
It's flat, yeah. It's all.
So
yeah,
you can't tell intent,
Yeah,
you can't tell inflection, you can't
Right.
tell
No, and
emotion.
that's a
Nothing.
dangerous thing.
Well, yeah, because you don't know the difference between somebody being serious and somebody joking. There is no way to tell, okay? Because there's no visual, there's no mannerisms. There's nothing. It's just here you go, whatever you say, boom,
That's right.
And that's what happens.
And what you don't know is if you met this person in real life,
Uh-huh.
whether you'd like them.
No, you don't know
Oh,
that.
oh yeah,
No.
yeah,
You-
yeah.
you
You have
don't.
no idea,
So
right?
so there's all this assuming going on, and so you develop an image, a reputation, an expectation about who you are that is completely separate from yourself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. The perception of the person versus the reality of the person. Very, very difficult. Actors and actresses go through that.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
But also there can be a kind of anonymity to it. I mean, and part of the issue, and I have good friends and a former boss of mine, Conover, who had to, for a number of years, change her name and use a pseudonym because being constantly bombarded by trolls. And the trolls are just extremely nasty people who hide behind the anonymity to say all kinds of terrible things.
Oh, yes.
And some of them go as far as look up your personal information. And if you're a female, and being a female on the internet is completely different than being a male. If you're a female, then a lot of it gets very personal, and to the point where I've had Conover for being one, but some others who've been stalked.
Oh my goodness.
Over the internet, yeah.
Well, no, in person too.
Oh, in person
Oh,
too, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But through the internet.
Well,
is
through
what I
the
mean.
internet, they find their addresses.
Yeah, they
and
find
so
out where they are.
They find out where they are.
Yeah.
So it's, so on the one hand, you're developing these relationships, and most of them are good. But on the other hand, you don't know who else is out there.
Well, yes, and I see too that people are, I'm guilty of that, and so are my family. They put their children up there and their families and talk about them, and it's out there. It's a dangerous world, and it's even more dangerous with one good gift you get with the communication, another is taken away.
With my daughter that's in the military, when she was at the Coast Guard Academy, I hacked her computer. Because they go, the kids are kids. They go into college and everything else. I hacked her computer, and I took all the pictures down that she had on the computer, okay? And they had been partying. They had gone out one night partying and everything. These are college kids, right?
Sure.
So when she come home, I laid out all the pictures for her. Okay, this was her first year. I believe it was her first year. Second year at the Coast Guard Academy. First year she shattered her wrist, she had a heart attack. Second year at the Coast Guard, and when she came home, I said, she went absolutely nuts. How did you get that?
Oh, yeah.
I
yeah.
said, yeah, how do you like that? Easy. Well, I had Bobby hack it because I'm not that good at hacking, but Bobby did it for me. So I said, now just remember this, right? You're in the military. You're going to be a military officer. I said, and how is it going to look if these pictures are all out all over the place? I said, everybody's got a camera. Everybody, and you're on there on this social network. To this day, Angie does not go on a social network. Of course, she's, not been, at all. No, nothing. No pictures, no nothing on this. Because I tried to teach her that if I can do, she was mad at me, too.
Oh, yeah, you invaded her
I
privacy.
invaded her privacy, and I said, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
So, yeah.
And so it can be it can be a very dangerous situation that you're in.
And you don't know, and you don't expect it.
You don't, yeah.
You write something that's innocuous or innocuous to you. And if you do any sort of writing at all, particularly political or about relationships between the sexes, or current events, or racial, or something like that. You find that there are a lot of people who want to comment and chime in, and that's what you're trying to do, is start a conversation, get people to talk, exchange opinions. But you also leave yourself wide open to all these people who either disagree, which can be fine as long as it's handled within the boundaries of a disagreement, or are just out there waiting to attack somebody.
Well, that's right. That's just what they're snorkeling around for that. You know, the thing, though, that is hard to wean yourself off of, and it's a temptation, is that it's a perfect place to get a message out for free. You know, it's a perfect place politically, for instance, me being a candidate in my hometown, perfect way for me to give a status, talk about things, dangerous too, but then...
Well, it's a plus and a minus.
Like you have to weigh
You have to weigh.
Yeah.
Like I have friends. I've met this young man in the Sudan.
Oh.
And become a little bit of a mentor to him, as much as I can. And so we, I'm finding out about he found me, God knows how, and wrote and started telling me about his life, and he sends me pictures of what life is like. Now, I know nothing about the Sudan, but I'm learning from him, and it's a completely different world than what I know of. But I'm learning about him and his family and what he has to go through on a daily basis. He's looking for a job. He's an experienced accountant, but there's no work in the Sudan. Trying to get out of the Sudan and going to another country is a big deal.
Yeah.
And they have to go through a lottery system to be able to get a visa.
Wow.
So he's now on the lottery list, but he doesn't know. And so he's looking at a life that is basically fairly bleak. And what his hope is that he hits the lottery and is able to come to the United States and find work. Well, I'm also trying to explain to him that, that all of that may occur. And yes, there's a lot of opportunity in the United States, but it's not going to be as easy as you think it's going to be.
No.
So it's a great forum to advance certain ideas and form relationships, but you have to do it with the expectation that there are things out there that you're not going to necessarily like.
And see, when I look at that, I'm different in the situation. I've had people trying to make contact with me because they look and they see that I'm involved in civil actions, advocacy, stuff like that. You get people from certain countries, and they're looking for sponsorship. And my question right away is, who are you, where are you, what are you doing, who do you work for? And when I start banging like that, there's a big difference in the relationship, okay? Because I know what they're doing.
Sure.
Okay, and when I say, you don't even know who you're really dealing with. You're talking to Father Carmichael. You don't have any idea of the background of who I am and everything. And I've had over the years, I have a pretty big following, and over the years I've had these trolls, as you call them, get in there and start to give me a hard time. Well, right away I put individuals who are capable on searches, and I go right back to where they are. And I say, see, you can't run and you can't hide, and I can get you. I say, you need to know who you're talking
That's
to
exactly
and
right.
everything else. I don't care where you are in the world. If you're on an internet, I'll find you. I can find you. Most people can't because they don't know how to do those type of things. But there's people who are very capable. And that's the problem of who are you dealing with. You don't know. You have no idea. All you got, and people steal people's identity. I can be writing you, telling you I'm Michael.
Sure.
Okay? And I'm not.
Sure.
Sure.
It can go.
Well, at times I do play you on the internet.
and I don't care, and you know that.
Yes.
I want to kind of steer us in another direction because
sure.
what I find very interesting having you on the show, Michael, is that you're a journalist. You have a background in business, economics, You have a liberal arts background, a writer, interviewer, all these things. What is it about being a journalist that this seems to be what you are right now, a journalist? What attracted you to that, and what are the pros and cons of that situation?
Well, see, I kind of view this as a continuum, is that part of it is I'm just naturally curious. I want to know.
Oh, yes.
Okay? I just want to know because it bothers me not to know.
An investigative type.
Investigative type. So if you look at it, being a consultant is basically being an investigator.
Right.
You go into a new situation, you go into a new business, and you're brought in there for whatever reason. Sometimes you're being brought in there for a reason that's not exactly the reason why you should be there. Mm-hmm. But you have to find out very quickly what's going on inside this business. You know, who are the people you can talk to, who know what's going on, what happened, and you're going to get various different stories about what happened, and so you kind of have to filter through that, and then piece it together, and very quickly come up with a plan of how, you know, what can be done, what can realistically be done in the situation, and go about implementing it. To me, that's the same process as writing an article virtually, other than the direct people interaction, because take any subject. Most recently, I read about being an introvert. Well, I'm an introvert. And so I was reading a book by Susan Cain called Quiet. Great book, a New York Times bestseller. But she talks about the whole, what it's like to be an introvert, what it's like to be a public figure in being an introvert, which she's become. She's now in demand around the country as a speaker. She just introduced a new line of introverted office furniture through Steelcase. Swear.
Right.
And it's excellent. Look at it, because it's a completely different point of view of the traditional office cube, office cube schedule. So, so I wrote about being an introvert, and it's a way of everything is personal. Everything is based on your field of interest, who you are, what your experiences are. Mm-hmm. And some of us have the ability to put it down in writing, but it's part of the human situation to need to communicate to others, because the hope is in communicating that you'll find somebody else is interested, or somebody else will learn from it, and in turn you'll learn from them. Back the cavemen, when Russ was still first around.
I knew there was something different about him.
Yeah, they did drawings on the walls to let others know that there were, that there were lions and bears and some of those animals hunting,
the area,
or there was water, or there was something there for somebody else to know.
Right.
Where did they get that from? Mm-hmm. They just came about it and said that there was a necessity to communicate and to assume that there were other people and other people were interested, but they found a means to be able to do that.
Right.
So it's built into our DNA, more or less, and that's part of what makes us human, and part of why we, doing this, need to communicate to others.
So is it better when you're an interviewer, because I know you've done some interviews, is it better to be an introvert as an interviewer or an extrovert as an interviewer? How do you handle either side,
To me, one of the best interviewers today is Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow has come out and said that she's an introvert. And I think being introverted means that you learn to listen and you learn to see the environment around you. And so you see things that an extrovert wouldn't necessarily see, or the extrovert is too busy, but the extrovert is talking and is going about being their bubbly selves. Outgoing.
All the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And the introvert is there taking a step back and evaluating and so on. So by being introverted, you also develop an interest in other people or things around them. So the introvert is to me is a better interviewer because they will get more out of the individual because they become aware of certain things, or they listen and they hear something that somebody says that maybe somebody else wouldn't catch.
Right. That's a very interesting take on that. I see that you have interviewed Jesse Ventura.
Mm-hmm.
What was he like?
Well, it was done over the phone, and it took me the better part. I was writing for a publication at the time, and this was around when he was running for governor. Mm-hmm. And of course, I knew him from his professional wrestling days, and he was, certainly an outrageous character, and so on. So my point of interviewing him was that he was the first candidate to really use the internet and social media to promote himself.
Yeah.
So I worked through his campaign staff and got a chance to spend the better part of he had won the election by the time I got to do the formal interview. So we spent the better part of 2 hours. And of course, it's me asking questions and then stopping and listening for 20 minutes.
Sure.
Because he's a politician and he can
And he's
certainly
bigger than life.
He is much bigger than life. And the funny thing, though, was is that he switched modes. I couldn't ask him about professional wrestling. The thing that made him most popular and most interesting to most people was the outrageous Jesse the Body Ventura character. Mm-hmm. But now he was Governor Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, and it was he was not going to.
He was not going to
go there.
He was not going to go there.
No,
he didn't want to look like the clown. He was the serious governor who's outgoing and tells it like it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, in talking with him, it was all about policy. It was policy matters. And what do you want to do for the state of Minnesota? How is your relationship with the legislature? What are you up against? So it would be like interviewing Governor Malloy or any other person in an elected office. But at the same time, he's still Jesse Ventura.
Right.
And the outrageous personality, the booming voice, had to hold the phone about this far away because the voice comes through. Mm-hmm. So he's a fascinating person. He still is, but he's gone off in different directions.
Yes, I know one of his directions is conspiracy theories and things like that, which are entertaining. And
investigative.
Yes.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Yes. I don't. I myself, and I don't know if you can tell this, have never been an introvert.
Oh. That's.
I just can't be. I don't know how to be. Although I do make myself listen, and I enjoy politics and the things I do.
But you have an interest in people.
Yeah, see.
That's.
I think some people have. There's both sides to that. Okay, you can be extroverted on the outside in your political thing, in your advocacy, and all that. That not necessarily doesn't mean that you're not into questioning, searching, and all that stuff.
Well, yes.
And because people think when you say introvert, into self. Mm-hmm. And it is not necessarily totally into self. It's about when you talk about it, it's interested in the many things that you hold.
Well, it's also in your willingness and to a certain degree ability to project yourself.
Yes.
That an introvert will automatically hold